And thanks to everybody for joining me online this afternoon. I'm delighted to be here. It's my first time presenting at Ride. So today I'm talking about small icons, big connections, which is the use of emoji surveys in online computer science programs. So I guess the main thing I want to talk about is engagement with students and engagement online. And if you're watching online, I believe it's very helpful to be able to see the person who's presenting. So if you want, I know I was watching other ones earlier and they could be little boxes, but if you want to pin the screen that I'm in, you'll get to see me alongside the presentation if you want. Okay. So I'll continue on. So the context of this is our learners are fully online in employment, and they are on funded IT conversion course. So the unique challenges is for people who are studying online, as we all know and has been discussed across the last 2 days, is balancing work, life and study and the feelings of isolation and imposter syndrome. The negative impact of this on engagement can be on engagement and retention. And dialogue is essential for motivation and retention. I'm not going to go into it too much now, but Garrison et al. Talks about the role of social presence in meaningful online learning, and Kahu talks about why engagement drives motivation and persistence. So we on the HDIP in computer science, which is now also a certificate in computer science, which is a level 8 program, we have a strong focus on social presence. And in order to do that, you need to build trust, connection, and help people feel that they belong to something. So the approach I take is supported by life coaching principles. I am a qualified life coach, and those are active listening, emotional intelligence, and goal setting would be some of the main life coaching principles. So I took on this role in January 2020. It was a new role. I'm the online engagement advisor in SETU. So the task was to build an online community to facilitate and encourage interaction with and among peers, and to increase engagement with the programme, and to provide supports to help students to fit study into their lives in a practical way. Because everybody is busy, people take on a programme because for some reason it's going to better their life, but we don't always think about the bigger picture and how it's actually going to fit into our existing life, because most of us don't have 15 hours just waiting there in the wings with nothing to do with them. So I'm just going to give you a quick overview. We use Slack on these programs. That's industry standard. It's our communication platform with the students. And you can see here from this screen that all their channels are there. So you will have their modules, you will have the general channel where we give out all the main information. You will have work placement. So my lovely colleague, Joan Mankins, on this call, she looks after she's a project coordinator and placement coordinator, program coordinator. And we are all in the one place. So this is a one-stop shop, which is actually makes things a lot easier for students. And I was looking for a title to come up with that would fit in with all of those. So I'm not the academic side of things. I'm a different type of support. So we called it life, etc. Because when you look at all of these channels, you'll see there's modules, there's general, there's exams, there's introduction, there's work placement. So then everything I look after is kind of life, etc. The next one then is showing tutors. So this is a bespoke open source web content platform that was developed by our colleague Eamon de Lester in SETU. And I also have a presence on that platform, as you can see here. So I have the Life Etc. supports, the Life Etc. framework, and then podcasts that we have done with staff and students. So this role was to build a community. So there's lots of different elements to it. Videos, podcasts, animations, chats, virtual meetups. But the one that I want to focus in on today are the emoji surveys. So the setting is, as I mentioned, online learners on this program juggle work, life and study. But the emotional experience is often invisible because, and particularly now, it can be invisible in all educational settings, but particularly when you're online and you're remote. And silence is easy to read as disengagement, but it doesn't necessarily mean that people are disengaged. It might mean that they're busy. Now, is our emoji surveys trivial? Like, how effective can emoji surveys really be in addressing these issues? Well, I'm hoping to show you how we did it. So this is an example. I was sending out, I was lucky to be given free rein with how to implement this into the programs in SCTU. And so there was a bit of trial and error. And as I said, we created a lot of different types of content, and surveys was where we wanted to get the student voice. But traditional surveys weren't really giving us great response rates. So one day I just wanted to know how they're doing. And I love emojis myself. So I put up on Slack, I'm going to try an emoji survey. How's everybody doing? How you reply is let the emojis do the answering for you. And then I gave them a little example. In Slack, you can add multiple emojis. So the response I got kind of was surprising because it's the students, like, as I said, with traditional surveys, I wasn't getting that big of a response rate because I suppose we all get surveys in our inboxes and we go, oh, that's going to take a while and I have this to do and that to do. But something that's short, it's light touch, it's quick, it can be humorous. It seems to actually really get the engagement from the students. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. This is just after they've started the program. How has week 1 gone for you? So you can see here, there's 18 people are smiling, 2 people are clapping, 4 people were sick because it was January, 6 had the okay, and then it goes on. There was a couple of melting faces already at that stage, and we had people, a robot and a watch, and people watching. So you can add a little bit of humor into it, but immediately there's engagement. So then we move on about halfway through the program, and I ask them again. It's a reading week this week. There's been 6 weeks of content already delivered, which means you're halfway through the semester. So this is a bit of coaching mindset as well, because sometimes people can get caught up in being on the hamster wheel and they just can't see, where they're at. They don't stop enough to see where they're at. So again, this question is, how are you feeling now? And at this response, you can see the exploding heads, how there's been a higher incidence to those. There's more melting faces. And I particularly like the 4th one over there, which is, you can't see it here because it's a screenshot, but it's a little guy whacking his head off the computer. So people are starting to settle into it and are feeling frustrated. But what I really liked about this one was a student, I've blanked out their name, but a student actually replied in the thread with a little image, which is, the whole place is burning down around them, but this is fine. And what I really love to see is the students responding to that themselves. So it's great that they respond to me, but the best case scenario is actually that they interact with each other and that they find ways, whatever it is, to be able to add a little bit of humor into their day and actually connect with each other. So then this is the same group, but later in the program. Again, you can see here that we have exploding heads, we have more melting faces, we have people that are tired. And with this one, I know this is very small and I don't expect you to be able to see it. I just wanted to give you an idea of it. So with this one, I actually responded because there was quite a few, like the 16 melting faces and the 8 exploding heads. So I wrote, thanks for the responses. Exploding, melting, tired heads are all normal at this stage of the program, as are most of the others, but there are 2 new emojis, the fried egg and the whatever that ogre was. I'm intrigued. So that's adding a little bit of humor, but acknowledging how people are feeling. Hopefully knowing that others are feeling the same helps. You're currently at the end of week 5, which means this is where things are hotting up and time management might be getting a bit more tricky. However, it also means that next week you'll be your halfway point for this semester. So again, we're bringing them back to where they're at now and what they've achieved. And then a little tip to get through tricky times: try to keep focused on what you are doing, break them down into smaller goals, tick them off as you go, and use the supports around you. Then a student answered with a little bit of humour, but also a bit overwhelmed with the amount of material this half. So this, again, this is very brave for students to be admitting that they're feeling overwhelmed. But for me, I'm delighted with this, because this means that they feel that this is a space that they can share that. So it's about the different ways that they are connecting with each other, and just how such a small, simple thing can actually help people connect and feel part of something. So emoji surveys, they enable the heart, the emotional connection, and mind, reflection and awareness, to be expressed in a shared and intentional space, which is Slack. So I'll just talk about that for a second. So the emotional connection, that's the feeling of being seen. It allows them to express how they feel without having to use words, and it helps normalize vulnerability. So if you're feeling that things are quite difficult at the moment, or you're very tired, or you're sometimes we get crying faces, if you see other people have similar type of emoji responses, that actually helps you go, I'm not the only one. Where there's emotional solidarity of we're in it together. Then also the mind bit is reflection and awareness. So this actually, it wasn't intended at the beginning, but it prompts internal reflection. You have to stop for a second to go, okay, well, which emoji actually suits best how I'm feeling at the moment? And that fosters self-awareness. And then that, often students have told me, leads to a moment of mindfulness, because sometimes they go, oh, wait, no, I actually do. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I need to take a break. It can stop unhealthy thought patterns and encourage growth-oriented thinking. It's also the platform that we use. As I mentioned earlier, it's a one-stop shop. It allows for asynchronous feedback. So for people who are studying online, we all have different schedules, different work patterns, different responsibilities. So I could post something at 9 o'clock in the morning, and somebody can answer the emoji survey at 2 o'clock the next morning. And there's no pressure to explain in words. Now, for a period, I worked with the Literacy Development Centre as well in SETU, their programs. And what we learned there as well is there's also the added benefit of you don't need words. So if you have something like dyslexia, or if you are on a literacy development program, then not having to use words is helps people. The emojis help their confidence being able to express themselves. And of course, everybody can see each other's emojis. So it's open, it's transparent, and it fosters that sense of community. So now, if they emoji check-ins meet learners where they are at emotionally at any stage on the program. So this is the main thing. This builds a foundation for connection, for trust, for motivation, and for persistence. And we've seen it time and time again. It's not just the emoji surveys, I have to say. It's the whole program approach. So this program team identified a need for something extra. So that's where my role came about. I personally, in SETU, or a version of it, started as WRTC, then became WIT, and now we're Southeast Technological University. Since 1993. I studied by night myself, so I understand what it's like juggling work and study. So I studied a cert, then a diploma, then a degree in computing. I took a career break and was HR manager for an international software company for 2 years. So I understand recruiting these people as well. And onboarding people into jobs. So there's the imposter syndrome side of things. And then I did a diploma in life coaching. And when I returned to the college SCTU, I was lucky enough after a short period of time that this role came about. So it kind of matches my skills to date. Now, obviously, a very important element of this is the student voice. So we did get some feedback down through the years. We've asked, or they've just volunteered. So these are a couple of them. I think it's an easier way to respond than formulating words. So it gets much more responses. Also, it's kind of lighthearted, so people are quicker to share if they're having a hard time, e.g., the melted face. Other ones then that we got from a survey we specifically did in 2023 and asked about that. I really like the time for an emoji survey post. It's a good tool to see and share how people are feeling during a particular moment. I like the emoji survey since it opens up the floor for people to talk about how they're coping. I think the emoji answers has been a great way for people to get a sense of how we are getting on as a group and helps unify the fact no one is feeling one individual way. They are shared amongst others. You'll see from all of this, it's about feeling, it's about coping. So it's not actually the academic side of it. And generally, the people I talk to who ultimately are talking about dropping out or do drop out, it's not the academic side that's the difficulty. It's fitting study into their lives. It's the imposter syndrome mindset, and it's the isolation. So it's really important that we try and help people feel connected to us in as many ways as possible. Then there's a wider use of emoji surveys on the program as well. So this is a different kind of a use. Because it was working so well, I tried this one. So we set up study groups when they start. So I should also say that we have one on-site a semester, which is great. And that is really beneficial for helping people to connect. Obviously, the gold star is in person. But not everybody can make it to the on-sites. So sometimes we offer different types of ways for them to connect. So I do virtual meetups, as I said, but also study groups. In this case, they don't pick their own emojis. I give them 3 options. So the books are, I'm in a study group already. The computer is, I'd be interested in Laura setting up study groups. And the individual is, I prefer to work by myself. So I then click those 3 emoji responses to that post. So they're already there. And then as the students come on, they just click whichever one is relevant to them. So it's even quicker than the other type of emoji survey. And as you can see, there is a great response rate to it. This is actually a class rep who posted saying if the students wanted to share how they're feeling more generally, just react to the appropriate emoji below, which is fantastic. Again, as I said earlier, for me to see the students, the class rep using the emoji surveys themselves. So I'm not involved. Now, I did say delighted to see the emoji survey, Marty, to encourage people to continue to use it. And then this is that's just another example of the same thing. This is another class rep that put up, first of all, a normal emoji survey, and then the weekly check-in at the bottom of the screen is like the study group one that I do. So he gave 3 options: a big smile if they're all up to date with their work, a no expression if they have to complete that week yet, and crying face if they haven't started. So to see then them taking this on themselves and people reacting to it is what we're aiming for. Another use is Frank Walsh and Jimmy McGibney both use it for determining when students are available for additional labs or lectures. So coming towards the end now, you'll be glad to hear small icons, big connections, emoji surveys. They're small, accessible tools. It's a small, accessible tool. It's low effort for learners. It's insightful for staff. We get to see insights into students' feelings that we wouldn't otherwise, and actually also circumstances. One of the surveys had a hospital on it. You know, when the emoji surveys, one student responded with a hospital. And I was going, okay, I don't know what that means. So I sent a direct message to the student saying, just checking in, is everything okay? I see there's a hospital. Turns out that student was actually in hospital. So then we had that information, and then we were able to support that student I informed the lecturers, and we were able to push out assignment deadlines so that the student, when they were better again, they were able to pick up with the program and they went on to graduate. And it supports connection, as I've already discussed. Now, there's one caution. And that's, don't treat, if you're thinking that this might work for you, I do not recommend that you treat it as a measure of effectiveness on its own. Like, emojis can't capture full complexity of somebody's feelings. It gives us visibility, so we can use them as starting points rather than explanations, like what I just spoke about with the hospital. But they are they also are a snapshot of how somebody's feeling at that particular point in time. And finally, emoji surveys may be small touch points, but they can make a big difference in helping students feel seen, heard, and supported. And I think that's what we're all aiming for. And I'd just like to say thank you very much for having me. And this is my LinkedIn profile. So if anybody would like to connect with me, that's my LinkedIn profile, and that's also my email address at SETU, Southeast Technological University. And I'd love to hear from people who are doing similar type of work, and or people who would like to maybe put emoji surveys into their own work and want to know how I did it. So thank you very much.